Hey everybody, it's Jason from the Texas Gun Vault, and once again I'm coming to you with another range report. And today's range report is a compendium to another range report that I made recently on a very similar firearm. This is the Q Honey Badger, and if you want to see the range report on that, I will put a link in the description below. But it is a gun that has been copied by another high-quality AR-15 manufacturer, more specifically Noveske. And the gun you see in front of you today that we'll be talking about is called the Ghetto Blaster. Yeah, it's not a very PC name, but you know, these companies that are rivals try to do the cutesy names when it comes to their marketing. So this essentially is Noveske's version of the Honey Badger. Now, there are a few things about this gun that are different than the Honey Badger, but before we get into that, I want to thank the people that always make these videos possible. First and foremost is the owner of both of these awesome pistols that lent them to the channel for review, and that is my good friend and local subscriber, D. He just wants me to use his first name, so thank you so much, D. It's an honor to get to shoot your amazing collection. I also want to thank my Patreons as always, because through their monthly donations they help keep the lights on around here, so thank you very much, Patreons. And as always, the person that makes all these range reports possible because they provide the ammunition, and that is my good friend Mark from Brownworks. You guys know I talk about Brownworks in every single range report because I cannot tell you how much he supports my channel through his ammunition donations. Mark is a master craftsman that can make a wide variety of different types of wood grips out of many different types of exotic woods and materials. He can put on custom logos, etchings. He makes grips for a wide variety of guns like Colt 1911s, CZ75s, and Beretta 92s, just to name a few. He supports me here at the Texas Gun Vault, and I ask if you like this content here on YouTube, you go and see what he has to offer on his website. I'm going to put a link in the description below, and as a pinned comment, I'm also going to put a discount code for 10% off your first order. So if you are in the market for fine and high quality wood grips for a particular firearm, go over there, see what he has to offer, and if you don't find what you're looking for, make sure you contact him and tell him the Texas Gun Vault sent you. Alright, so let's talk about the Noveske Ghetto Blaster. Essentially, this is an AR-15 style pistol because it has a brace, not a stock. I do believe they offer factory SBR versions of this gun, chambered in 300 Blackout. And this is Noveske's essential answer to the Honey Badger by Q. Now, as I said, there are a few differences. The rail is a little bit different on the Q Honey Badger. It only has a Picatinny rail on the top, and then you have M-LOK on the sides and bottom. Here we also have Picatinny rail on the bottom. We also have a different brace. Even though this brace is made by Q, this has an intermediate setting. On the Honey Badger, it is either fully telescoping or all the way in. Here you get this intermediate setting, or kind of halfway, and you also have the full way, besides it just also being collapsed. I do like that, and I will be talking about that in the future. We also have a little bit different grip. The Q Honey Badger uses the Magpul K grip. This uses the K2. It's a little bit bigger, and I believe for the most part that's kind of the biggest differences. So let's talk about the things that I like and don't like about this particular gun. First and foremost, we're going to talk about the Noveske quality. Q makes an amazing firearm, and so does Noveske. When you look at this gun and you handle this gun, you realize this is one finely manufactured firearm. Every aspect about it seems to be well thought out and well built and constructed. I mean, the fit and finish of this gun is just outstanding. You don't see any machine marks whatsoever. The finish on this gun is absolutely perfect. I also really like this telescoping brace, especially because it is milled into the side of the receiver, both the upper and the lower. It's like no other receiver that you can get outside of Noveske and Q. It is really well thought out and well built. I really like the design of the gas system of the Ghetto Blaster a little bit more than I do the Honey Badger, because this does not have an adjustable gas block. One of the complaints I had with the Honey Badger in that last range report was the fact that I had some problems running Subsonic ammo. Now, I did not bring a tool to adjust the gas block, and I am not really a big fan of adjustable gas blocks because essentially it's more complicated. There's more parts to the gun that can break. And depending on the loading, I don't want to be sitting there with a tool at the range fiddling with the gas block if I want to go from one magazine to the next. I like guns that are going to run pretty reliably regardless of what I'm shooting. And like both of these guns, they're said to be able to run subsonic without a suppressor. I wasn't able to do it on the Honey Badger, so I'm hoping I will on this gun. Now, this is not an adjustable gas block, so I'm assuming it's pretty much going to run wide open. That might mean it's going to run a little bit overgassed on the Supersonics, but we'll just have to find out. I've already mentioned one of the nice upgrades over the Honey Badger that this gun has is the adjustable length of pull when it comes to the brace and assuming the stock, and that we have 3 positions completely collapsed, halfway, and fully extended. The Q Honey Badger only gives us 2 positions, and if it doesn't conform to your body, which it really didn't for me, well, it can be kind of awkward to shoot, and this gives us more options. So I have higher hope that this is going to be a little bit more comfortable of a firearm to shoot. Now let's talk about the couple of things about this gun that I do not like. And first and foremost is going to be the disassembly. When I did the range report on the Q Honey Badger, I also did a field strip video. And I can tell you these guns are really complicated to get apart and put back together because of the buffer spring system when it comes to these braces. I don't recommend these guns for simple novices, people that don't understand how guns work, how they go together, and might not be familiar with AR-15s in general. Because of that difficulty of putting it back together, it's not as fun to clean. Now, I did run into one problem when I did clean this gun, and I'm not going to do a field strip video on this because it's essentially the same as the Q Honey Badger. The only issue was the fit of the receivers on this gun are much more tight than the Q. So it's already a complicated gun to get apart and put back together, but this one was exceptionally difficult. I don't know why the fit of the upper and lower is so tight. It was really difficult to put back together, as I've mentioned. So if you are somebody that is OCD like myself and really likes to get down into all the nooks and crannies and cleaning the gun, well, you can get it apart. It's just getting it back together is kind of a pain in the butt. But if you can oversee that, then maybe it's a perfectly fine gun for you. When it comes to the controls of this gun, I'm not really a big fan of the 45-degree safety selectors. I know it's kind of the new hotness right now in the AR-15 world, but when it comes to my guns, I like it to be at the 90-degree, the standard AR type. So if we're going to charge this weapon, and of course let me safety check this gun to make sure there's no ammunition in it, and we are clear. Now that the hammer is back, I can put the gun on safe and the gun on fire. But as you see, the switch only goes 45 degrees instead of 90. I find that to be just a little bit awkward. And I personally think if you are going to have a 45-degree safety selector, you need to change the markings on the receiver. Here we have safe and fire up top. Well, that fire does need to be moved. It seems to be a very simple change, but if that's the way you're going to design the gun, well, I want you to change that marking as well. Another thing I'm not a big fan of are the flat face triggers. I know all these high-end companies are really forcing those flat face triggers on people. I can deal with them. I would just have to end up replacing them. But you do get a nice Geisley trigger in this. So probably if this was my gun, I would replace it with a very similar Geisley trigger, just with a curved interface. And I think for the most part, that's just the things about this particular gun that I'm not a big fan of. But I know for a lot of people, those are just small gripes. So let's go ahead and get this thing to the range. I'm going to set the target out at 10 yards. I'm going to put 20 rounds of supersonic ammo through this, mainly because the last time I shot the Q Honey Badger, I had problems with subs, which we will get to in this range report, but the supers worked great. So we're going to start off there. We're going to test the accuracy. We're going to see how this trigger feels. We're going to see what the recoil impulse of this gun is, and just, of course, see if the gun runs. So here we go, 20 rounds, 10 yards. Let's see how she shoots. So after shooting this, I have to say it's extremely accurate, and the recoil impulse is a lot lighter than the Honey Badger. I don't really know why, because internally that's pretty much the same gun. It might just be the fact that this gun is a little bit heavier. It also seems like it might be a little bit over gas, and I talked about that non-adjustable gas block on the front. So I think this gun is tuned to run supers and subs with no problem and no adjustments needed. That was one of my complaints with the Honey Badger. I said I think a gun with factory settings should be able to run most supers and subsonic ammo with no problem. A lot of people disagreed, but hopefully Noveske will have that figured out with this particular gun. But so far it's running great. The trigger is also really nice in this. If that trigger was just a little bit curved, it'd be absolutely perfect. But right now it's 4.5 stars out of 5. I definitely think this gun wants to run fast. But before we do that, let's load up the next magazine with 10 or so Subsonic just to make sure this thing is going to run with ammo that is going down range a little bit slower, and see if it performs better than the Honey Badger. So let's see if it can run Subsonic ammo. And this gun performed as I hoped. Unsuppressed with Subsonic, it ran just fine. The ejection pattern was definitely a little bit weaker, but the bolt did hold open after the last round. So I think this thing might already have the Honey Badger beat. And I know some people are already turning off the video and hating me because I'm saying that, but this is a fantastic gun. And if it can run both supers and subs unsuppressed, well, it's a pretty darn versatile gun. But now let's take this thing out to a little bit further range. I call this the accuracy portion. No, I'm not going to bench rest it. It's just me shooting the gun offhand. I'm just curious if I can shoot it as well at twice the distance. We're going to go out to about 25 yards, put about 20 more rounds through this thing. Yes, it's going to be supersonic. I'm just curious how the accuracy is going to be, if the group's going to open up any, or if my shooting gets worse. So let's just see how I do. Man, oh man, does this gun shoot really nice. It definitely wants to be run fast. I don't think my group is as good as it could be because, as I said, I just want to shoot this thing fast. The trigger in this is really light and very crisp. I absolutely love that. So maybe my group wasn't the best I've ever done. Still pretty tight. The gun is definitely accurate and very reliable. But speaking about being reliable, I know some people are going to buy this gun for home defense or CQB type of defensive uses, or possibly for competition. Now, if an average shooter like myself can do a quick magazine change with this thing, well, I know somebody that trains this way constantly can do even better. Now, this is just the same manual of arms as a standard AR-15, and I can change the magazine out relatively fast, but if I can shoot this thing fast, get that magazine out, put a new one in, get the gun back in action, well, I know you definitely can as well. And this is just one of those tests that I like to try on every one of these guns. So, let's see how I do. So I forgot to mention in that last segment that the first magazine was going to be supersonic ammo and the second magazine is subsonic ammo, and it had no problem running both. And man, oh man, does this gun want to be run fast. When you pull the trigger on this thing, the reset is so short and so crisp, it is awesome. And that magazine change was pretty darn fast, even though I messed up on it. I wasn't sure how it was going to come out when I edited it, but it came out really good. I was using a magwell hold, and when I dropped the magazine, it actually kind of got stuck because my finger was on it. It didn't drop free of the gun, but I was still able to strip that magazine out, get the next one in pretty darn fast. So it makes me look like a better shot than I actually am. So thank you so much, Noveske. That is awesome. All right, so now I want to give my son a chance to shoot this. He shot the honey badger, and as I mentioned, I like to get my family out to the range as much as possible because you guys know I'm a huge Second Amendment advocate. And getting my son to appreciate the Second Amendment and find firearms means a lot to me because I hope to pass on the baton to one of my kids one day. You would think being the kids of the Texas Gun Vault, well, you love guns. Well, they do, but only in video games. But Carter's been coming to the range with me more and more, and I really appreciate this. And I was glad he came on this range trip because he shot the honey badger. I wanted him to shoot this and see what he thought. He's a novice shooter. We're still working on his technique, but he's a pretty good shot so far. So let him get behind the trigger of this and let me see what he has to say about it. So after shooting it, he had two things to say. Number one, he said the recoil did seem to be a lot less than the honey badger, and we shot the honey badger one day before. So he had a pretty good reference and to compare the two. The thing he liked the most about this gun, however, was that intermediate position on that brace. When it's fully extended, it's a little bit too long, and of course, fully collapsed, it's too short. This was absolutely perfect for him, so he really liked that a lot more. And this little brace here at the end did not dig into his cheek like it did on the honey badger. So this got higher marks from him than the honey badger did, and he thought he liked the honey badger more because it's a gun he was more familiar with, but he ended up liking this one even more. So take that for what it's worth, and I really appreciate him coming out to the range. Now, I always want to give my wife Becky a chance to shoot this because she's a completely different type of shooter than I am. Getting that female perspective, I think, is really important. So let's get her a little time behind this gun. Let's see what she thinks. I'm curious. The gun's set up a little bit different. We're going to put it on this intermediate setting, or this halfway point on this telescoping stock, which I think she'll like a lot better. And I have a feeling she's going to like this grip a little bit better just because of the shape of it. She likes the angle of that K grip, but she said it might have been a little bit too small on the honey badger. Now, this is an easily changed out part if you don't like one or the other, but I think this is the way it comes from the factory. So let's get her some trigger time and let's see what she thinks. So all I can say is, Damn, she is a good shot. I love it when she shoots that great. She had no complaints about this. She did with the honey badger. Now I know a lot of these things that I'm saying are qualitative in nature. They're personal preferences and things that I can't always express scientifically through a video. I can only say, well, it shoots a little bit nicer for me. The trigger's a little bit nicer. The recoil's a little bit less. You just have to experience it for yourself. Now luckily, I shot these guns pretty much back to back. Yeah, this one was yesterday and this one was today, but I have a good frame of reference. And I just want to document my own personal experiences and opinions for you. You can take these data points and do with them what you like. A lot of people criticize me for my complaints on the honey badger, but I just gave you my honest opinions. I don't think that everybody's going to like every single gun. That's not how the world works. But when it comes to this gun, I have to say it has really impressed me. So what are my final thoughts on this amazing gun that is so close to the honey badger? Well, I actually thought it was going to shoot about the same. I really didn't think there was going to be that much of a difference. But getting some trigger time on it, I have to say, I think it corrects a lot of the issues I had with the honey badger. The finish is definitely a lot nicer. It recoils a lot better. I think the trigger is nicer, and it can run subsonic ammo with no problem. So for me, it gets a lot of points for that, where the honey badger kind of fell short and disappointed me. But man, when it comes to the Ghetto Blaster, this is one fantastic gun. So's the honey badger. Please don't think that I hate it. It ran good for me, but this one for me just has all the boxes checked. It just fixes all those other issues, and I think is just generally a better gun. The biggest issue though is disassembly and reassembly, the field stripping for cleaning of this. I don't think your average gun owner that's not a complete geek like you or I might be would be able to do it effectively and efficiently. It's really difficult to get apart, so I do have to deduct a few points for that. But overall, when it comes to the performance, the fit, finish, and function of this, it's absolutely fantastic, and it hits a home run. So on my star system, how would I rate the Noveske Ghetto Blaster? And let me give you guys another close-up of this awesome looking firearm. And it even looks great with that EOTech on top. Well, this thing is going to get 4.5 stars out of 5. The honey badger got 3 out of 5 because of the issues with the finish and not being able to shoot subsonic, but this fixed those, but unfortunately it's just too difficult to reassemble after cleaning. So it gets a little bit off for that. But 4.5 stars out of 5, and my personal preference between the two is the Ghetto Blaster. I think it's just a better gun. Now you might disagree, but both guns are extremely well built, they're high quality, and I guess it really would depend on your personal preferences and the options that you want. But this one for me fits my style just a little bit more. So there you go, 4.5 stars out of 5 for the Noveske Ghetto Blaster. And remember, these are just my thoughts and opinions. I never state anything as fact. You are free to disagree with me if you like. So let me know what you think in the comment section below. Did I get this wrong? I'd love to know. So, as always, thanks for watching.